I am Denise, and a few weeks ago, my father, who had been grappling with illness, passed away. A lingering sense of regret accompanies the wish that I could have shared the news of his grandchildren with him. I entered into marriage 5 years ago at the age of 30, and during the wedding, my father and I made a solemn pact. I would be the first to inform him when I became pregnant. Unfortunately, that promise remains unfulfilled, constituting my sole regret concerning my father. Since his illness was diagnosed a year ago, I wholeheartedly devoted myself to his care. Regular visits to my parents' home, accompanying my mother to the hospital, and increasing phone calls and video chats were just a few ways in which I endeavored to be there for him. Despite my earnest efforts, a persistent question haunts me. Could I have done more? Muttering these contemplations, my mother reassured me that I had done well and that my father would have been content. Just then, my sister Susan returned with a lawyer named Henry in tow. Seated in the living room, Henry handed me his business card after being guided to a seat by my mother. Once Henry settled, my sister abruptly disclosed information about our father's substantial inheritance. I clarified that it wasn't exclusively for her, leading to a tense moment between us. Our relationship had soured since learning about Dad's illness, partly due to my sister's arrogant attitude. Despite numerous attempts to mend our connection, she rarely visited our father. Our disagreements escalated as I pointed out that she could easily travel 2 hours by car. However, she insisted on the challenges and expenses, emphasizing her busy city life. Despite living at a distance, I consistently believed she could visit occasionally, but our relationship deteriorated rapidly. Ultimately, my sister never visited our father, leaving our bonds strained. Sensing the escalating tension, the lawyer intervened, urging us to calm down. Apologies were exchanged, and Henry, the lawyer, nodded before resuming the discussion initiated over the phone. "I have your husband's will. When did this happen?" my mother murmured. "A few weeks before he passed away, he contacted me." "So, you went to the hospital?" I asked. "Yes, I had him sign the will in front of me, with his primary physician present. It turns out they had arranged for the primary physician to contact the lawyer when my father passed away. So, after my father passed away, he contacted the lawyer, and in turn, the lawyer reached out to us. That's how it happened, and that's why I'm contacting you now," the lawyer explained, pulling out a white envelope and placing it in front of us. "That's definitely Dad's handwriting," I muttered, verifying the characters on the envelope. My sister Susan seemed a bit salty, saying, "Never mind, just tell us what's in it. I'm busy, you know." "Very well," the lawyer said with a wry smile, opening the envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper detailing that, besides the house and land, my father's inheritance included some savings and a storage shed. We knew about the house and land, but what's this about a storage shed? I wondered aloud. As I pondered this, my sister Anne Gray said to the lawyer, "Wait a minute, you didn't mention the farm." "Farm?" "Yes, the farm your dad used to work on as a hobby. After turning 50, he decided to close his company in the next town and started farming near our home. It feels good to move my body while farming," he said, looking happy. I explained. My sister, however, insisted that the farm should also be part of the inheritance. The lawyer reviewed the documents and quickly found a note, saying, "The farm is rented land." "Rented? I thought we owned a large piece of land," my sister said, disappointed. Indeed, the land where Dad grew vegetables was spacious, but it might be too much for us who know nothing about farming. "Maybe it's good that it's rented," I suggested. The conversation then shifted to dividing the inheritance. "As for the division, the house and land go to the wife," the lawyer declared. My sister grinned, saying, "So we can divide the rest however we want. Please divide the savings and storage shed equally between you two." "Savings mean cash, right?" "I'll take the cash. How much is it?" I inquired. "The savings amount to about $100,000, and there's no need to pay inheritance tax for this amount." "Then I'll take the $100,000 in cash," my sister declared triumphantly. However, I couldn't agree with such a selfish arrangement and strongly protested against it. Wait a minute, I object. Why? I'm the oldest daughter, I argued. That's irrelevant. You can have the storage shed. What even is that anyway? My sister turned back to the lawyer, flipping through the documents. The lawyer answered, "It's the storage shed next to the phone. You'll inherit the building, the land, and its contents." My sister's eyes lit up at the mention of land. Even though she's married to the CEO of an IT company, she still seemed eager for more money. As I wondered about this, the lawyer continued, "But it's about 65 square feet, roughly the size of a small bedroom." A small bedroom? Yes, here are the photos. The lawyer placed pictures of the shed on the table, showing both the interior and exterior. The exterior clearly looked like a rundown shack, and the inside contained only basic tools like hoses, scissors, and shovels. Nothing that seemed valuable. "I don't want it," my sister grimaced. "I painted the photos too. It's all very ordinary. These are sentimental items, but they won't bring in money." As I pondered this, my sister spoke up, "Fine, I'll take the cash. You can have that dirty shed." "Hold on, that's not fair. You agreed to the vegetable farming. What are you complaining about now?" I argued, finding it hard to resist her logic. It was hard to argue when she put it that way. Still, if I didn't say something, she'd take all of Dad's inheritance. I thought to myself. "So, we're good then?" My sister pressed me as I struggled to answer. My mother chimed in, "As long as Susan won't complain later, I have no objections." "There's no way I would. Then Susan gets the cash, and Denise gets the shed." "Okay, it's settled," my sister grinned. Feeling uneasy, I immediately objected. "Well, I'm not satisfied." "Oh, give it up. But you're so greedy, aren't you?" "That's not it. You're such a hassle. You care more about Dad than money, right?" My sister's words left me speechless. Of course, family is more important than money. Money is important, but it's not something to compare with family, I thought to myself. While contemplating this, my sister quickly ended the conversation. In the end, my mother got the house and land, my sister got Dad's savings, and all that was left for me was the dirty shed. After that, my sister signed a document promising not to complain about the inheritance division. She laughed, a hearty, boisterous laughter that clashed with my frustration. I couldn't resist venting to my mother, "Mom, why didn't you help me?" "I did help you. You decided with Susan," my mother replied. "That's not true. I made sure you got the shed." I'm not happy about getting that shed." "You might find something surprisingly good if you look closely," my mother said with a smile. I could only puff out my cheeks in response. The next day, I took the key from the lawyer and walked to the shed near the field. It was a 15-minute walk from home, down a rural road where no one else passed by. Finally reaching the field my father had rented for the past year, I opened the shed with a key. "Wow, it's dusty," I remarked. The shed was quite dusty, likely untouched for a while. Still, I wondered if there might be something sentimental from Dad. With that thought, I looked around the shed. Nothing special. It was just a dirty shed. All I found were tools used for farming, sentimental, perhaps, but nothing extraordinary. "Maybe I should just take what's inside for now," I mumbled, scanning the shed. That's when I noticed something peculiar. It looks smaller than from the outside. Maybe it was the dim light, but the shed's interior felt a bit cramped. Is it just my imagination? I wondered as I stepped outside. Something still felt off. After pondering for a bit, I decided to walk around to the back of the shed. The backside was adjacent to a thicket of various trees, and to my surprise, there was another door there. Wait, another entrance at the back, I gasped. Looking from inside the shed, there was only a wall, indicating that the sole entrance was the door I had used. Yet, from the back, there was another door. What's going on? I considered. A door on the back should be visible from inside too, but it wasn't. That meant there had to be a wall in between. In other words, there was a space accessible only from the back. The moment I realized this, excitement welled up. This must be Dad's surprise. Dad always loved surprises. He even surprised me on my birthdays. Memories flooded back, and I found myself tearing up. Hastily returning inside the shed, I began searching for the back door key. With a gut feeling that Dad would have hidden it somewhere in the shed, I rummaged through it. After a while, I found 2 keys concealed in the handle of a shovel. Going round to the back, I tried one of the keys in the door. With a click, the door opened. What could be in here? The space inside was indeed cramped, only about 3 feet wide. A large safe stood alone in the space. Is this from Dad's company? I recognized the safe. It was the same one I saw in the corner of his office when I was a child. Nostalgic, I hugged the safe. This was a true memory of my father. I felt fulfilled. This alone made the inheritance worthwhile. But knowing Dad, this couldn't be the end. There had to be more surprises, I muttered. Inserting the second key into the slightly rusty safe produced a rusty sound, and to my amazement, the safe opened. No way. The moment I saw the contents, I was stunned. Inside was an unexpected inheritance. What should I do? Oh, I have to tell Mom. I locked the safe and rushed to my mother. After explaining the situation to her, I called my husband, and with his help, we moved the safe from my parents' house. Then it hit me. The contents of the safe were undoubtedly Dad's. However, if it's part of my inheritance, including the shed, I might have to pay inheritance tax. Better get this checked out thoroughly. The contents of the safe were clearly valuable. I decided to consult the lawyer. Inheritance tax for that. You should, according to the lawyer, consult a certified public accountant. So I got a referral to an accountant from a friend and left all the complicated matters to that accountant. In this way, a year passed. Just when I thought things had finally settled down, my sister showed up near my home. What brings you here all of a sudden? I asked. Well, I had some business at our parents' house, so I stopped by. Yeah, something like that, my sister said. Her behavior was strange and funny. No matter how you look at it, even if my home is close to our parents, it is still a 25-minute drive. We're not the kind of sisters who would casually visit, especially after the tension of our dad's inheritance. It's not a relationship that comes to play carelessly. I couldn't shake off my suspicion as I looked at her. Meanwhile, my sister, acting a bit nervous, asked, "Can I come in?" "Sure, but what's the matter?" I inquired. "I have something to talk about," my sister said, forcing a smile. Reluctantly, I let my sister into the house. After I served some coffee, she started to fidget and then began to speak. "So, did you win the lottery or something?" I tilted my head, puzzled. I never buy lottery tickets because I'm not interested. My husband, who's a salaried worker, does get a holiday bonus, but it's not that time of year. What on earth is she talking about? Confused, I asked her directly. "Hey, what are you talking about?" Suddenly, my sister got angry. "What are you making fun of me? No, what are you talking about?" "Money. Money, you have it, haven't you?" "Money." "Yes, I heard about it." My sister began to speak excitedly. It was a story from a few days ago. Living in the city, my sister had run into our aunt by chance. The woman started the conversation like this. "I understand how challenging it has been for you since the loss of your father. Are you holding up, okay?" "Yes, I've been coping. I visited him frequently when he was unwell." "That must be a relief for you. Getting a substantial thank you gift must have been nice." "Thank you gift? Oh, you mean the $700 gift card my sister sent me for visiting him." It caught her attention, and she seems convinced I came into some unexpected money. She interrogated me about it. "So, did you get a windfall or something? Just admit it." "Ah, that's what this is about." I sighed. It wasn't about a windfall, it was a thank you gift. "So, where did you get the money for it?" "That's what I want to know." "From the inheritance, remember?" "Inheritance? All you got was that dirty shed." "Yes, that's true, but there was a safe inside it, and that's where the real inheritance was." I carefully explained to her about the valuable watches in the safe, collected by my father as a hobby during his lifetime. However, I didn't know their exact value. The remaining savings were about $100,000. Considering he was a business owner who could retire early, that amount seemed small. That led me to think he might have invested a lot in those watches. My mother had said, after seeing the contents of the safe, "What should I do, Mom?" When I asked my mother, she thought for a moment and advised, "Things like this always come out. You should declare it properly." Well, let's ask that lawyer we spoke to recently. So, I consulted the lawyer again. I was told that if you inherit valuables, the inheritance tax is determined by their value. A certified public accountant could handle it for me. The result revealed that the watches alone were worth at least $500,000. With watches this valuable, you'll have to pay inheritance tax. How should I pay it? I asked. The lawyer suggested, how about keeping the ones you're emotionally attached to and selling the rest? Certainly, it didn't make sense to me, who didn't know their value, to hold on to such expensive watches. I'd rather someone who understands their worth have them. With that thought, I sold some of the watches, used the money to pay the inheritance tax, and sent thank you gifts to the relatives who had helped us. Those thank you gifts were the gift cards my sister was talking about. By the way, what I kept were items like the pocket watch my father often wore. I showed my sister the pocket watches as I told her this story. This one isn't expensive, but it holds the most memories for me. However, my sister frowned upon hearing my story. What? You don't have any left? No, there are still some in the safe. Where's the safe? It's at Mom's. The safe is too big for this house. It's the one Dad used at his company. My sister looked away, seeming deep in thought. I felt uneasy seeing her like this. Right after that, she stood up and said, "I'm leaving now that I know where the money came from," and left. Considering how money-minded my sister is, I thought she might demand some of the money from the watch sales. I was relieved she left without making a fuss. However, in my relief, I forgot the unease I had felt earlier. My sister isn't that understanding. I had forgotten that, and I was reminded of this late that night when I got a call from my mother. "Denise, it's urgent. Come over right away." "What happened, Mom?" "It's just really bad." My mother was frantic and unclear. My husband and I rushed to my mother's house. As we approached, we noticed something strange. The area around my parents' house was lit up in red. What's going on? The reason became clear as we got closer. Several police cars were parked outside my parents' house. I pushed through the crowd and called out to my mother, "What happened, Mom?" "Well, Denise, you see." According to my mother, it was after 9 p.m. Feeling tired, she'd gone to bed already. Soon after, she heard strange noises. Sounds like someone searching for something came from beyond the door. "Oh, it's a burglar." That's what my mother thought instantly. However, she was the only one in the house. Feeling helpless, she decided to escape through the window. Looking back, she saw the light of a flashlight moving inside the house. This is definitely a burglar. Convinced, she ran to the neighbor's house and said, "Help! There's a burglar." Hearing this, the neighbor immediately came out. They too saw the swinging light my mother was pointing at and called the police, thinking it was a burglar. However, it wasn't a burglar at all. It was my sister who had sneaked into the house. She had gone to rummage through the safe after hearing my story. Neither my mother nor the neighbor had any way of knowing this. Soon, the police arrived, and naturally, my sister was shocked. Realizing she was in trouble, she tried to make a quick escape. Of course, it's her own family home, so there's no need to run. Yet, in her panic, my sister thought she had to escape. In her rush, she bumped into the open door of the safe. Just then, the already unstable safe toppled over, falling right onto her as she tried to flee. So, Susan got trapped under it. Yes, that's what happened. Is she okay? She was taken to the hospital by ambulance, but she keeps saying her leg hurts. What on earth was she thinking? I was truly dumbfounded. Afterward, my mother and I apologized to the police officers who had come to help, feeling bad for calling so late. I also phoned my sister's husband. Wait, you're saying Susan broke into her own family home and got injured? Yes, that's correct. What is Susan doing? She doesn't even do housework. I'm really sorry about my sister. That's it. I'm filing for divorce. Divorce. Actually, according to my sister's husband, she had accumulated a substantial amount of debt. Apparently, she had been spending excessively on brand name items, and he had just found out. They had a huge fight, and in the end, my sister stormed out of the house, saying, "I'll borrow from Mom and pay it back." It turns out she had already used the $100,000 she inherited to pay off her debts. Still short, she came to me to scrounge for more money. Learning about the contents of the safe led to her actions, which in turn led to this whole mess. No wonder her husband was furious. In the end, my sister, who had fractured her leg, was hospitalized. Her husband came to the hospital and started talking about divorce. Naturally, my sister made a scene, declaring, "I'm not getting a divorce, absolutely not." But it was too late. Her husband had brought the divorce papers, and seeing them, she had no choice but to sign. Now she's lying in her hospital bed stunned. There's a part-time job magazine next to her, so she's probably planning to start working part-time to pay off her debts. That would be a relief for me. As for me, I decided to move back to my parents' home after all the commotion. Of course, I'm worried about my mother, but there's another reason. I found out I'm pregnant. My husband and I talked it over and decided to move back home and have my mother help us with the children and childcare. I wish I could have told my father about the pregnancy while he was alive, but I'm sure he would be happy for us. So I'm looking forward to giving birth to a healthy baby.